It's 8:30 in the morning. I got other things to do. But I got to address this because what the fuck? Minor housekeeping things. I'm not doing all this to make fun of this person who said this claim. I'm not trying to belittle them or whatever. This is an educational moment for the class. So let's get into it. Here's our initial argument from our friend, that Sin was actually a Mesopotamian lunar goddess, and to be a sinner was therefore to be a part of the priesthood of Sin. And we know this based on a book called, The Magdalene Mysteries, written by Azra and Saren Bertrand, a married couple. Azra, who has, an MD, and Saren, who, exists, I guess. And this book was written in 2020, so fairly recent, but not super recent, I guess, but definitely past where I thought it was. I'm not gonna lie. Let's start with the deity in question, Sin, or also known as Suen, or even Nana. So, we got two separate names here. We got Sin and Suen, which is an Akkadian name, and we also have Nana. This is Sumerian, and this is not a goddess. This is actually a lunar god, a male god, who was the patron of the city of Ur. So, okay, at first it seems like, okay, we're going somewhere. We're already kind of wrong in that this is not a goddess, and so it has nothing to do with like feminine anything and feminine mysteries and womb whatever and any of that shit. But there is some kind of Mesopotamian deity that has to do with the moon and has a name kind of like Sin. Okay, great. Some important things about this deity. The first is that this deity is associated with cattle. The symbol of this deity, in fact, is a bull. And so one association with fertility related to this god is the fact that he has to do with cattle. The second is because as a lunar god, the moon being a luminary, being something associated with menstrual cycles, there is also some folklore about this deity that has to do with that as well, with the story of Gemesin, or the cow of Sin. This cow being basically one that was having trouble in childbirth, and Sin helped the cow out. Then we get this kind of folk charm where basically to help women in childbirth, you'll say, may your birth be as easy as the birthing of Gemesin. This is a folk charm now that has to do with Sin and with the cattle and with the moon. Okay, great. Which actually brings us to an important point from this book right here, God and Anatomy by Francesca Stavrokopoulou, and that is that in these times and in this area, it wasn't goddesses that had anything really to do with like the main function of fertility. It was gods. The function of goddesses in the Levant around this time was to facilitate the fertility of the god. The god was the one who actually had that creative, fertile energy that could be very chaotic and destructive if not properly managed, basically, by the goddesses. And this is a book by an actual scholar in the actual field that is relevant to the discussion of this topic, which is important because, as we'll get into, Azra and Saren are not. So far, with our original thesis, we, again, kind of off track, not totally accurate, but hey, look, Sin, that does exist, right? Okay, cool. So this must have something to do with the Abrahamic concept of sin, as we now call it, right? Quickly, raise your hand, class, and tell me, what language was the Bible written in? What languages, rather? Are they English? Or they may have something else. Etymology of the word sin. Let's talk about this for a second. Because here's the thing. I don't know who needs to be told this, but sin is an English word. And it comes from, basically all the way, if we really go back, like to Proto-Germanic. Comes from sundio, all the way back here. And later, that does become other words. We have Zenda from Old Frisian, we have Zonda from Dutch, and we have Zunda from German. this word, which means a violation of divine law. It means a violation, a transgression, right? Doing something problematic. There are some theories that this might even have been borrowed from Latin, because Latin had a similar thing going on where in the genitive case, Latin has this word sontus, which implies a criminal. There's also this concept of sum, which means I am, right? Like, cogito ergo sum, right? Like, I think, therefore I am, right? So this is this kind of thing going on here. Some speculate that maybe Germanic had taken this to have a similar kind of confessional structure in like how things are said. So like this idea of sin isn't really just like, oh, bad. It's kind of like a marking of oneself in which like it is true that I am in transgression kind of thing. It's tricky. It's a little weird, but the point is, it has fucking nothing to do with this random ass deity from the middle of the Levant. It's its own word. It's its own thing from Proto-Germanic. And I don't know if y'all have seen a map of the world lately, but like Germanic tribes were nowhere near the Levant. So, if we want to get into the words for sin now in Hebrew and Greek, well, I don't want to spoil it for you, so let me just... Wow. Wouldn't you know? None of these words, either in Hebrew or in Greek, are actually the literal sound, the three-letter word, sin. On the Hebrew side, we have chata, which is to miss the mark. We have avon, which is like iniquity or evil and implies that something is bent or twisted or broken. We have pesha, which is really like really, really harsh one, and that's like just like transgression, like just rebellion, right? Just like evil kind of stuff. Meanwhile, in the Greek, we have hamartia, which is like chata, it's to miss the mark. These are archery terms, by the way, archery, right? Literally, like, you know, you shoot an arrow and you miss. To translate that into New England speak, we would say, you fucked it, right? That's kind of that one. The second one, we got paraptma or parabasis. This is a lapse, transgression, and offense. And then asebeia, which is impiety, evil, right? None of these are the word sin. None of these sound like that Proto-Germanic word that eventually flowed down into our modern English word sin. None. So when I tell you, my friend, when I originally said to you, your claim doesn't sound right, this doesn't make sense, it's because immediately I know in my head that the word sin was not literally the word sin in the Bible. To say that to be a sinner is to be a priest of this, not even goddess, but a god, in the context of etymology alone, doesn't make any sense as a claim. And so when you double down saying, well, I wouldn't have said this if I didn't have research, ooh, this brings us into the next part. What is this book that you were reading? Exactly. Let's take a closer look at it and its writers. So this one I'm just gonna have to throw some stuff up on the screen, but basically this book is kind of, from what I can tell, seems to be insisting that Mary Magdalene was the real progenitor of the Christian faith, that she is a creatrix, that like she has all these mysteries and stuff going on with her, and so we somehow got this claim about some random deity in this book. I don't know how, I don't know why. But, okay, great. So, to me, this sounds like a lot of Gnosticism and a lot of woo-woo stuff that deeply surprised me to find out this book was not written in about 1994. Because 1970 to 1994, 2000 is when we got a lot of, like, overcorrecting, I think, in a lot of spiritual spaces. We got a lot of, like, the more bastardized understandings of Wicca. We got a lot of New Age stuff and a lot of woo-woo type stuff that would say things like this. And the problem is that none of these claims hold any real actual basis in shit. But I don't know what I can expect from authors who also wrote stuff like, I don't know, this book and that book, both of which had me like, oh no. Oh no. And again, right, as I was holding up that other book earlier, This one, very important that this scholar, Francesca Stavrokopoulou, actually has a PhD in the topic of what she is talking about, has actually gone down to the Levant, has gone to these sites and done direct research, taken her own pictures, done her own archaeological work. She is actually an expert in this field. That's important because Azra and Saren are not. Azra has an MD and seems to have quite a few good qualifications with medicine and especially with midwifery and other stuff like that, and that's awesome and that's great. His wife, on the other hand, has a degree in modern philosophy and a degree in English literature. Again, awesome, great, but not relevant to what they're writing about. Not relevant to what they're writing about, and therefore not like something I would expect them to have expertise on, and therefore explains a lot of these crazy, goofy claims that I am being told they are making in the book in question here. This doesn't mean they're stupid, it just doesn't mean that this is not their zone, right? I know a lot about religion and folk magic and all this stuff. I don't know a lot about changing oil in a car. If you came to me asking how to, like, fix up your car or change your oil in your car, I wouldn't fucking know. That doesn't mean that I'm a dumb person, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person, it just means that's not my area of expertise. Same thing's going on here. Same thing is happening here. And of course, granted, they're going to try to make themselves look more credible by having a lot of testimonials from people who read their books. People like Linda Starwolf, who, okay, maybe that's like a Native American name or something. Oh. No. No. This seems to be some kind of, again, woo-woo type stuff, some Silver Raven Wolf type stuff. And given the socio-political context I have of everything from that era, no, my friend, I do not trust that. I also don't trust these people who say that they have a PhD and then they're a Jungian scholar. Listen, Carl Jung's very interesting, but none of that expertise has shit to do with these blatantly bunk archaeological claims that are being made here. Kind of feels like when I was ripping up this stupid-ass book, Pagan Threat, and he went on to insist that, all these feminist pagans are out here doing, abortion as a sacrifice to Artemis based on this book. I had to go read that book, a little bit of it, to figure out what the hell he was talking about. And it turns out this author, as a psychologist, is not talking about legitimate archaeological fact or anything about legitimate Greek religion prior to Christianity. She was just kind of making shit up based on Jungian archetypes, which is like its own kind of thing, but very misleading if we're thinking of the literal fucking ancient religion of Greece. You know what I'm talking about? You understand what I'm saying? Do you get it? Do you know? These authors don't have any credentials to be talking about this shit, and so the stuff that they're saying immediately is like, no, I can't really out of hand accept that, and nor should you, my friend, who I wouldn't have said this if I hadn't researched it. Well, how did you research it? Because all of the stuff that I just told you took me 30 minutes to find. The entire argument you've made just got blown out of the water in 30 minutes. So, what research? And this brings me to my final point for the day, because again, I'm not trying to say this to be a dick, I'm not trying to attack anyone, I am just saying there seems to be a disconnect in our education around how to vet sources, and how to evaluate sources, and how to decide which sources are worthy of looking at or not. Maybe people forget this, but I am a professor, and my entire job is to teach people this exact thing. So this up here is called the CRAP test. It is an acronym. These 5 letters that spell out CRAP are how we evaluate sources because they mean certain things. The first one is currency, which means like how current is your source, right? In this case, this is a 2020 book. All right, that's only about 6 years old. Not the worst, right? But at the same time, we might get into the rest of these in a second still, right? If you're looking at, say, subjects like medicine, you're going to want really, really, really recent sources because medicine changes a lot. If you're looking at something from like 1975 about medicine, chances are that, it's progressed long enough since then that you're going to want a more recent source. If it's something like history where what we learn doesn't change that quickly, maybe you can use an older source from like 1910 or something like that and get away with that. But generally you want some current sources that are as up to date as possible. Now, relevance is more just like a time saver. Depending on what your argument is and what you're trying to say, this is going to matter, right? If you're trying to make an argument about, I don't know, whether or not energy drinks are good for you, you're not going to just start grading papers about vaccines, for example, because like that has nothing to do with the point you're trying to make. Relevance just means like, does it have anything to do with your actual point? Now, accuracy and authority are the big ones that we're looking for with this problem, because accuracy means that if you get multiple sources on the same subject, do they all agree, or is this source you have out of alignment with the rest of the body of research about the topic you're talking about? Is this thing that you're saying, or that this source that you want to use, is it able to stand up against all the other stuff about this that we know? And then authority is who wrote the source. Who wrote it? Do they have the credentials to be talking about this? Have they been caught, maybe ruining their own credibility, their ethos, as it were, by doing things like taking money to say certain stuff or trying to push an agenda or trying to do anything? Are they actually, credentialed and capable of talking on the subject? This one is purpose. Why does this source exist? What is it trying to do? What is the point of it? Is it trying to sell you something? Is it trying to convince you of something? Is it just trying to lay out some new evidence and information? What is it trying to do? What is it, and what is informing it? What is inspiring its existence? If I have to evaluate this friggin' book that we're getting this claim from, these two are down. And we're really not sure what the hell the purpose of this one is. Currency, sure, okay. Relevance, that's up to you, I guess. But these alone are enough to kill it. Because the information that you're telling me doesn't hold up when you cross-reference it. And the people who wrote it aren't qualified to talk about this. So, the be-all, end-all of this conversation is that y'all gotta stop playing in my face like this. Again, when you come into my house, my house, I mean my comment section, when you come into my house, if you're not on top of your shit, you're gonna have to make me pull out the whiteboard and give the whole goddamn class a lesson, because come on. What are we doing? Stop fucking around. And all of this really tells me that people are more interested in finding random ass ideas that validate their feelings than they are actually interested in truth. Sometimes shit happens and sometimes shit is true that isn't comfortable. And you'll have to deal with that. You can't just go searching and shopping around for the next absolute fucking quack to tell you some shit that you want to hear. What is real and what you would like to be true are two different things. It's especially double dumb to me because why are we making such a complex about the concept of sin? I get it. Lots of folks across time and space at this point have weaponized the concept of sin and being a sinner, and it makes sense logically to want to grab that back, and that's fine, and I understand that. But the problem is that this is incorrect, in that you're also missing the main point of what sin is, which is simply the acknowledgement that you are human and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to not do things that are 100% awesome, kind, and sparkly all the time. The whole point of the concept of sin is that you have a system of recognizing of the fact that you will do things that hurt yourself and others at some point, and you need some system to atone for that and make up for that. In a day and age where media literacy is in the fucking garbage, and also where there is more information now than ever, and anyone can write a fucking book and just post it and call themselves an authority on something, you have to work harder to verify that what you're reading is actually worth reading and isn't just bullshit. This is very important. Please do this. You gotta cross-reference. You gotta look. You gotta, check out the bibliography. You gotta go find out where else these people are getting their information from. Find out what other scholars in their field are saying. You have to do legwork. This is why academia is annoying, because it takes a lot of work to find out whether or not someone's actually bullshitting you or not. But now that we all know, we can maybe avoid this problem again in the future. So thanks for the, opportunity to dispel this insanity. And may we all move on today with a little bit more critical thought applied this week.